So we talked about strengths. We're going to talk about values. So again, get that paper out. And this time you're going to get 30 seconds to do an activity. And I encourage you, I know people are probably tempted. Let me take this time to check a text or to do an email. Take this time for yourself. Okay. So you're going to get 30 seconds. If you had a year to live, just write down things that you would want to do. If you have 60 seconds, what would you want to do if you had a year to live? Yeah, I think my timer is a little off. I think it's set for 30 instead of 60 seconds. Now, the next one is, if you had a month to live, cross off what doesn't belong on your list, kind of figure out what should be on your list, add things. So if you had 30 days to live, and now here's the next one. If you had one day, 15 seconds to think about what matters. It's a little scary to think about in this way, but the reason I want us to pause and do this is because we were talking about this earlier. There's no such thing as work-life balance, but it's really knowing how you want work to fit with your life. What do you want your life to be? And it is so critical to understand what you value. And if you don't know what it is that you value for what you want in your life, and asking these questions from 365 days to 30 days to 1 day makes you really pause and think about it in a way that I think hones into what really matters. So this is critical to think about values. So let's talk a little bit more. How can you dig deeper into these values? Again, it's what are you looking for in an employer, but also how do you want work to fit with your life? And it's understanding these things. You can do, there's a value sorter. I encourage people to do a future self activity. There's a lot of things that people have probably done about your future self. An activity that I actually encourage around the future self, the one that I like, and is that you take 4 days in a row and you take 20 minutes and you set your timer on your phone for 20 minutes. I encourage people to write versus type. And you type as if it's, say, 25, 30 years from now, and 4 different days in a row, somebody stops and asks you and says, I heard, Mark, I'm looking at his name up there, everything came true in your life. Tell me what you did, but also tell me what you did to make it happen. So it's not enough to say what happened, but you have to say what you did to make it happen. And you do this 4 days in a row for 20 minutes. You write, your hand feels like it's going to fall off. You can use the same scenario 4 days in a row. You can use different scenarios. I encourage people to do it usually like in the evening when maybe their mind is less censoring of themselves. I also tell people, don't look at the 4 days until you're done, and then stop and look at this and you're going to begin to see themes and patterns. I had a former client do this who was on the fast track at Smithsonian in curation, brilliant woman. She did this and recognized how much she wanted a slower pace, more autonomy, more research, and most of all, she wanted to live closer to her family. So she relocated outside this area, took a big risk. But it was so apparent to her from doing this, and she didn't even recognize it because she was so busy going and succeeding in her career that she didn't recognize until she paused what was really going on for her. So I've done the activity about 4 times in my life, and I always get some interesting ahas out of it. So it's an 80-minute activity. And what's also compelling about that research on that activity, when they did that 6 months later with that versus a control group, the group that did it was not just healthier, they were happy, or not just happier, they were actually healthier. I think it just helps, gives you a perspective on life, gives you kind of an ability to take a step back and make different decisions. Another activity I encourage is the ideal day in your ideal job, and not to focus on the actual tasks, but what are you wearing to work? What are your colleagues like? What's your office like? Are you in meetings? If you're in meetings, who are you meeting with? Really getting a sense of kind of the bigger picture of the flow of your day-to-day is going to help you recognize, what are you looking for in an employer? What are you looking for and how you want work to fit with your life?